People on this app are always like, eat the rich. Honey, most of you are not even willing to unfollow the rich on social media. Isn't there a girl on TikTok that's like showing off her luxurious lifestyle, and it turns out her parents got their wealth from exploiting undocumented workers? There's still people in her comment section being like, but she's so funny, she's not like other rich girls, she feels so relatable in a way.
Welcome to Nice Finance. If you're reading the title, you already know what this video is about.
So you've gained class consciousness. What next? The right-wingers and the fascists are extremely good at organizing and mobilizing. It's called churches. It's called corporations. And super PACs. But what do the lefties have, right? Well, we have decentralized organizations, and we have community. And importantly, we have unions. So let's run through that pretty basically. The first and easiest thing you can do if you've suddenly come into an awareness that you have more in common with your common worker than the ruling class is to join an organization like Food Not Bombs, the DSA, or any other mutual aid organization in your area where you can meet other people who are interested in helping your community. Think of this community building as building the infrastructure for the actions and goals that we want to achieve. Encampments this year wouldn't have been possible if some community hadn't existed in the first place. Another incredibly helpful route is unions. If you have a workers' union, look into it. If you have a tenants' union in your area, look into it. Immediately to mind, there are also debt unions and credit unions. Get organized.
I've been thinking a lot lately about how the beginning of the downfall of the American middle class was basically the start of the civil rights movement, or at least when the civil rights movement was officially codified into law. And it's because once the government was no longer able to discriminate on paper by race, social programs evaporated. White middle class and lower middle class people stopped supporting social programs once people of color were allowed to buy in, and those social programs were eradicated over the course of 2 generations. And now here we are watching white people reckon with what it's like to have no upward mobility in this country. Because before then, all you really had to do if you were white was have a little bit of ingenuity and a little bit of get to itness, and you'd be fine. But now it's not that way anymore because people let their dismantle social programs. They said if black people are going to get them, then nobody should. And now here we are on the other side of that. And that's what people mean when they say make America great again. Obviously they want it back, but they want it back for that specific reason so that they can get benefits that you.
I love that everyone's on the same page right now, that a privatized for-profit healthcare system is not working and we need to move away from it in some way, and just more broadly achieving class consciousness. But our grievances should not end there. It's not just healthcare. The government should be providing and regulating things that we need to survive. So healthcare, food, water, energy. These are industries that the government already heavily subsidizes and would literally fall apart without that external support. Billions of dollars of federal discretionary spending, which comes from taxpayers, is used to subsidize the agricultural sector, the energy sector, healthcare. So many people in this country are so heavily conditioned by the American propaganda machine into believing that nationalizing these industries and absorbing them into the state is evil and communist and would never work, even though we can all agree that private corporations will do everything in their power to screw you over and deny you insurance claims, deny the existence of climate change, all to further their own profit margins. Keeping these industries private allows for anti-democratic practices like lobbying to loosen regulations, which is what we are seeing right now with the incoming Trump administration. Less regulations and a smaller government will make your lives materially worse, and it is time to stop pretending that more capitalism is somehow going to save us when it is the exact thing that's killing us in the first place.
Class consciousness. I'm sure you've heard the phrase a ton over the past couple of days, but let's break down what it means. It's kind of exactly what it sounds like, understanding where you fall under the current economic system and recognizing that your struggles are shared amongst all others in the same position, regardless of race, religion, gender. And it's the awareness that your personal challenges, let it be the cost of rent, student debt, low wages, they aren't personal failures, but a direct result of how society is structured. The system is actually designed so that it only benefits those at the top, while those at the bottom fight over crumbs. When we all develop class consciousness, we stop seeing ourselves as isolated and realize the power we all have together. Instead of shaming people for what they don't have, we start understanding why they don't have it and imagining something better. Historically, class consciousness has been a huge driving force for major movements of change. Think labor movements in the early 20th century, workers banding together to fight for fair wages, safer conditions, and things like the 8-hour workday that we take take for granted now. Or take the civil rights movement. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wasn't just fighting for racial equity, but also organizing to unite the working class across racial lines.
It is a crime for people to live in this rich nation and receive starvation wage.
Class consciousness shows up wherever people realize we're stronger when we organize. And it's no coincidence that historically movements like these have been met with resistance. The system does not want people waking up to their collective power.
Don't be silly. If it was a working class revolution, the ruling class would already be thinning the herd. You know, playing chess, not checkers. They'd be poisoning the air, poisoning the food, poisoning the water supply, making sure the populace is constantly exhausted, unhealthy, distracted, and barely getting by, forcing the people into a system where they have to constantly work but never get ahead, generally keeping people fighting for survival rather than fighting them. It'd be sowing divide in the populace by age, race, gender, politics, religion, and keeping groups constantly fighting each other. You know, fighting each other so that we don't fight them. And they'd set an example out of anyone who steps out of line and fights back against them. They'd be infringing on your human rights, like taking away your free speech or your bodily autonomy. And they'd constantly feed you propaganda to try to control public opinion on everything. If the ruling class were doing any of those things, then the working class should probably start organizing with their community, setting up mutual aid, unionizing at their job, and boycotting all mega corporations. Hope this helps.
A certain former health insurance CEO is on a lot of people's minds, former to the CEOing as well as to this plane of existence. And people across the political spectrum are having a very similar reaction to this denial of continued life for this health insurance CEO. And that, my friends, is an example of class consciousness. If you have never heard of the term class consciousness, oh my goodness, a blank slate, how exciting. I have some things that you should read. Anybody wanting to explore class consciousness should start with Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Matthew Desmond is an excellent author on class consciousness, specifically Poverty by America, and another book of his called Evicted. The Guarantee by Natalie Foster critiques the current class and economic structure in the United States and does some big picture optimistic dreaming and planning of what it could look like in the future. It's Okay to Be Angry About Capitalism by Bernie Sanders talks about American corporate greed and its disparate impact on the American working class. I need you to put any negative associations that you might have with socialism and communism to the side for just 1 second, okay? You should read Das Kapital or Capital by Karl Marx. We cannot have a full, authentic conversation about class consciousness without also having conversations about gender, race, and other intersections. So you should read The Sum of Us by Heather McGhee, What Costs Everyone and How We Can Prosper Together. Last on my list is Women, Race, and Class by Angela Davis. For more books about class consciousness and to get these books from local and independently owned bookstores, check out my book list at the place where that sort of thing usually goes. Please comment your favorite books regarding class consciousness so we can learn more together. Happy learning!
Every system in this country is, and they don't want us talking about it on this app. You're going to ask me not to contribute to the divide and not to talk about Donald Trump, but he is complicit in this. You have to recognize he is the billionaire whose campaign was funded by a billionaire who is filling his cabinet with billionaires. And they don't want us talking about that on this app.
Some people make a ton of money on this app, and they don't want that. They want us slaving away for billionaires, sometimes making minimum wage.
They do not want us talking about class consciousness on this app. They have put profits over our healthcare, our education, and our livelihoods. They will continue to do so until we do something about it. We have very little time to organize on this app. Otherwise, I'll be where the skies are blue.
I'm just glad we're seeing less of that Luigi boy on the news now. You know that's by design, right? Here we go. Yeah, I mean, they saw that we were agreeing about healthcare, so now they want us to argue about drones and stuff. I thought we agreed on the drones. We do agree, it's shady. Right, so what's your problem? The problem is that we're developing class consciousness because we're agreeing that the healthcare system has been screwing us over for decades. They don't want us to agree because that means we'll take action. So they're like, look at the drones. Here's bad things about Luigi. And who is they? I'm sure you're about to blame Daddy Trump. God, I wish I could just blame him, but it's not that simple. It's every single billionaire and person in power that stands to lose something if the status quo was changed. All right, so what do you want to do about it? What we need to do? Well, we could start by acknowledging that you and I are far more alike than we are alike to them. So we need to stop protecting them and protect each other. I don't want to be like a libtard. Elon Musk makes $950,000 a minute. All right, you might be onto something. Let's go.
People don't understand how truly poor the American South is. I moved from Tennessee to California about 4 years ago, and I'm still paying for it now. We just don't have the money to move, and so I don't really meet a lot of people from Tennessee out here. The closest I find are really people from Ohio, and so now I'm a Browns fan. But I bring that up because that's an important component in understanding the political divide. It has taken a lot for me to understand that social programs are there for me to use them because for most of my life, there was not enough to go around. I remember the first time I went to a food bank and they gave me an onion, I actually cried. And not like onion cried, but cried because it wasn't required food. It was flavor, and that was a luxury I couldn't really ever afford. And then I learned that they had like taco seasoning, and oh my God, it was amazing. But when you're used to getting by on so little, and the only security you really feel you have is the ability to make a dollar stretch, it is scary to ask for help. And you wonder who you're taking it away from. So when people take aid when they're destitute as opposed to like nearly, I think people can jump into judgment because they probably need the aid just as much as the person who received it, and they're scared it won't be there when they're long past needing it. And guys, there's enough to go around.
Look at this viral post on X. It's a guy holding a sign. It looks like in Africa. It says, "When the poor fight back, it is called violence." And it says, your thoughts on this. Do you guys think this applies to America also? Let me know what you guys think, because all these things that are going on recently, it's making this seem more and more relatable.
I'm going to be honest with y'all. I don't think this Amazon strike is going to go how y'all think it's going to go. First and foremost, I want to say that I support all unions. I support all strikes. I support all not going to work. I support all boycotts, okay? I have not been to Starbucks. Support any of the fast food conglomerates, okay? I 100,000% support the strike, even as someone who ordered some Amazon products and they have not been delivered in the time that they said they were. Like, I am okay with that. Like, I 100% support y'all. Like, but talking as someone who has been working in the film industry, the film and entertainment industry since the year 2015, okay? I have worked on reality TV shows, commercials, short films, no budget films, high budget films, content for streaming services that you own and you watch, companies that you know. I'm not name dropping none of them because I don't want to, I'm still a slave at the end of the day. But as someone who is still mildly surviving, getting through the 2023 strikes from the Writers Guild of America, the Screen Actors Guild, I supported those strikes. I'm glad they stopped, even though it meant that I am severely in debt, okay? I do not have as many jobs. I am still suffering today from that strike. That meant that I wasn't working on things. And even though this was primarily narrative projects, the rest of the industry is shut down as well for some reason. Like, I'm telling y'all that the strike has been done a year and 3 months or so, and we have not recovered from it, okay? I am shocked to see that there are a lot of film production people who do come into my comments and say that, yeah, like they're leaving the business, like they're in the same boat as me. Like, I feel like people really don't understand how many people work in the film and movie industry and like creating entertainment shows, commercials and stuff that you guys spend hours a day watching. Like, it's real human beings behind these shows who have car notes, who have car insurance, who have rent, who have mortgages and stuff. So many of us have lost our houses, our apartments, our cars, all kinds of things. You would think that the industry would, okay, so they went on strike, so that means they're going to pay us all better. They're going to, increase our wages. They're going to, play fair. The problem with unions and the problem with strikes is that you think that you are playing with someone who is also playing on an even playing field, not play by any rules. You're playing with people who rules for thee, but not for me. We hear about how it's socialism for the rich, but it's ruthless, unrelenting capitalism for everybody else, right? I just feel like it's again that conversation of like, what is coming next? Because I don't think that these strikes are going to end the way people think that they are. I don't think that they're going to end in higher wages, because what it really comes down to is that it's not only tax the rich more, right? Whatever. But I don't even know if I'm agreeing with that, because if we tax the rich more, I feel like the government is just going to launder the money. Like they're just going to distribute it amongst themselves. It's not going to actually come back to the people that actually matters for, because we see that they do that now. Lots of government spending, lots of waste, lots of where did that 1 point something billion dollars that we donated to your campaign go? Where did it go? And then you're here again asking us for more money, you know? But it's just not about the rich being taxed more. You have to take home less. And as I have always said, is that they're not going to give the yacht back. Like, have you ever actually been on a yacht? I don't know. Working in the film and entertainment industry has afforded me to have many experiences that I ordinarily would not have had. Have y'all been in a house worth tens of millions of dollars? I have multiple times. I've been in really nice cars, $100 million car, $100 million, $100,000 cars. Okay. I've been on yachts, like $10 million yachts. I have had the Wagyu beef. I'm not bragging or anything. This is literally perks of work industry. I'm eating Wagyu beef. Meanwhile, my car insurance is about to get cut off. I'm about to lose my driver's license. Okay. Like, I'm not trying to brag here or anything like that. But the point of me saying that is that they're not going to give the yacht back. They're not going to give their wife's Birkin bag back. They're not going to give back the early access to tech. They're just not going to give the stuff back. I think that some thoughts need to be had about what is the next step, what is coming next, what will you do next? Because I don't believe that the strike is going to lead to people being paid a livable wage. They're not going to just suddenly raise the people's wage in New York from $22 to probably $40 an hour, which is what it should be in order to survive in New York as a New York. Okay. You need that in order to like have some semblance of a life. So many people like me who, I'm on the other side of an industry strike, and it's bad. Like, it's actually bad. I worked on a show maybe 2 weeks ago. And before that, 2 weeks ago in the end of November, I believe, beginning of December. Oh no, because it was when the Luigi stuff happened. So it was beginning of November. And before that was September. I worked on a commercial. I applied to a couple, didn't get them, but it's nowhere near like what it used to be. So, whatever AI technology that Amazon is implementing or is testing out or whatever, it's about to get hard body implemented. So whoever is on strike right now or whatever, you need to be thinking about plan B. I'm not saying don't not go on strike. No, absolutely. This needs to happen. But like I said, I just don't think this is going to end well. So what is next? What do you guys think needs to happen next?
I don't know if you've already seen the report that has come out about the rise of homelessness of families from January 2024 of about 18%, citing that one of the reasons was the rise of migrants here in the US. The usage of migrants that the government has put out is on purpose. They want you to punch down, essentially, and not look at big corporations, landlords, that are price gouging the hell out of you for rent or for your mortgage to be able to own a home.
The class war is not the rich versus the poor. The class war is the working class versus the capitalist class or capital owning class. And I'm going to show you how capitalists build their wealth off of the backs of the working class in a parasitic relationship. So you can understand how capitalists become billionaires under capitalism. Okay, so to show you how wealth inequality grows under a capitalist economy, I'm going to need three things. I need a piece of paper, a pencil, and myself, okay? And so to start, let's imagine that you want to start a business, okay? And you need a couple things when you want to start a business. The first thing that you need is capital, okay? And capital is all the resources, tools, machines, factories, whatever you need to go ahead and build your product or provide your service, okay? So for this particular model, we're going to make the paper is going to equal a factory, and the pen is going to equal the machines inside the factory to build my product, okay? And this is all capital. And then this is, because I need these things to make my product, this is also called the means of production, okay? Because I need these things. These are the means to produce my item, okay? However, a factory machines are pretty useless without another ingredient on top of it. The last thing you need is you need labor, right? You need a person in factory to go ahead and build the product, okay? And let's say that with using a labor, I'm going to create a dollar sign. That dollar sign is going to equal $1 in profit for the company, okay, of whatever my item is, okay? However, labor takes time, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see how many dollars I can make, how many dollar signs I can make in 1 minute. And I'm going to pause the video and let's see how many dollar signs I can create in 1 minute. Okay, so it's been 1 minute, and in that 1 minute, I made 65 dollar signs. Okay, so I made $65 of profit in that 1 minute of my labor. And going forward, I'm going to change minute to hour because we talk about wages in hours, right? So in 1 hour, pretend that I made $65 for the company. Okay. Now, this is where the debate of socialism versus capitalism comes in, because the question is, who gets ownership of this $65? Okay. Who is entitled to it? Under capitalism, you have a private owner of the means of production, which you have to remember, the means of production is the factory and the pen. So you have a private owner who I'm going to represent as this pig here. Okay. And you have workers who I'm going to represent as this Smoliv. It's another Pokemon. Okay. Who made the $65 in profit. Okay. And so under capitalism, the person who gets ownership of the profit that the company makes is the owner of the means. So in this case, the pig. Okay. And so because the pig owns the factory and the pen, they get the $65 in profit. And what they're going to do is they're going to be like, okay, I'm going to pay you a wage back worker of $15 per hour. Right. And that means what happens is that other $50 goes to the capitalist, right? Or the private owner of the means of production. Now, you might be asking the question of why would this worker ever take that wage? Well, one, because workers don't understand this relationship. For one, they don't understand how much money they're actually making the company every hour. And two, most of the means of production, especially very complex factories, tools, and machines, are all owned by private owners at this point. So you're not going to be able to just go build your own factory and work for yourself that way. Could you work for yourself? Absolutely. But that's not going to work for all 8 billion people in the world. Okay. So go back to my thing about how is wealth inequality built, right? So you have to think about this relationship here. This person, the worker, is making money, but they need to constantly be working and doing labor to build their wealth, right? If they stop working, they stop making money. Okay. While this one doesn't have to work because all they did was own the means of production, and owning things does not require time. They could leave the factory and let the workers do their thing, and they're pocketing money every single hour, right? They're building wealth without having to spend the time and labor to do so, right? So over time, hour after hour, they're going to be getting more and more and more wealth, right? And then what are they going to do with that wealth that they are accumulating? I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to go ahead and buy even more factories. I thought I had more pieces of paper. I do, right? So they're going to go ahead and buy more factories, right? And hire more workers and have more machines, right? Which again, how did they even earn these other factories? Through just exploiting the labor of the working class, right? And then over time, this wealth inequality builds and builds. So to sum up my video, what is the class war? The class war is the people who build their wealth through their own personal labor, which is working class people, versus people who build their wealth through ownership of things, right? And as I explained, owning things doesn't build wealth on its own. The reason why they're able to make money is basically siphoning the money out of the working class. They basically are like ticks who are feasting off of the value that the working class is creating in a parasitic relationship. Okay. And so all capitalism versus socialism means is it's an answer to this question. Who owns or who gets ownership of the means of production, the things that workers need to do their job? Okay. Under capitalism, you have private owners of means of production. So private people can own things like factories, right? And then they can siphon wealth from the working class through that ownership, right? And those are capitalists. Okay. And socialism just means that the working class owns the means of production collectively. So under socialism, capitalists, their entire class no longer exists, right? Working class exists under both systems, right? Under socialism, though, capitalists no longer exist. The ticks, the parasites are gone, and working class people can share the wealth of their labor collectively. And you're not getting someone who's just taking all of your money and building all their wealth through basically exploiting you for your labor, right? And when the wealth inequality gets so bad, they make billions and billions. They buy out all the media. They basically buy out the government. They buy out everything. They own everything for themselves so that they can go ahead and spit out their propaganda to working class people that this isn't beneficial to you. And they do everything in their power to make sure that this doesn't gain traction and that this fails. They do everything they possibly can because, again, this is a threat to their existence and for them to living like gods on the planet. And that is the class war, not rich versus poor, but labor versus capital.
If you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing, sharing the video, and giving it a thumbs up. Until next time,